So people ask me after wet tumbling the brass, how do you keep from getting water spots? Well, what you do is you put the brass out on an old shirt or towel in the sun, and you let the sun dry it for you. And to keep water spots from happening, you get another towel and you just simply dab the top of this and get the loose water off the top of the brass first. Let the sun finish the job. And I'll show you a close-up so you can see how good this brass is. And the fact is, you don't need to worry about water spots if you get the water spots off. Yep, this brass is bone dry, absolutely dust free, and free of contaminants. Yes, indeed. Rinse the brass well after wet tumbling, and then get rid of the standing water with a towel, and then let the sun dry it nicely, and you're in business. So, yes, shooters and reloaders, it's Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from Hot Lead Zone. And also, hello to all of you Three Circles passengers and members out there. Today we're going to go ahead and start our reloading project for the Moose semi-wad cutter mini bullets for the 12 gauge slugs. And you see the big hollow in the base there. That's because the design of this, with the 3 driving bends and the deep grease grooves, this is actually a mini ball intended for black powder. Diameter at 688 inches happens to make this slug viable for use in 12 gauge shotguns. Well, we need to fill this hollow base up so that the wad that we use won't get driven into this hollow base and cause problems for accuracy. So now Jeff over at Fledermaus is using paper mache with toilet paper, and that actually works pretty well. But I decided to try this hard rubber compound that's polysiloxane from the dentist. They use these to take molds of teeth, so it's pretty tough. It's pretty hard. As you see, I take that and try and dent it, try and squeeze it. It's real hard. It's harder than a pencil eraser. At any rate, that's what it looks like when it's in there, and when it's in place, you've got to pry that out. So they're in there pretty good. Well, these slugs weigh 515 grains each, and the little rubber filler in the base winds up weighing at 24 grains. So you're looking at 540 grain payload, which is 1 1/4 ounces. That's a very good weight for a shotgun slug. However, because the diameter is 0.688 inches, we can't shoot these down our 12 bore cylinder chokes, which is 0.729. Now, if you're shooting black powder, then the black powder will cause the skirt to expand, and that was the whole idea of the mini ball in the first place. Very easy to ram the mini ball down the bore, but then when you fire it, it'll actually obturate and fill the bore and then achieve accuracy. But that won't work with our 12 gauge shotguns. And if we try and shoot this through a modified choke, the danger of excessive pressure is pretty high. Plus, you can't just seat this over smokeless powder, because smokeless powder behaves totally different than black powder. In fact, that's inviting disaster to shoot this with smokeless powder, say in a muzzle loader, or even in our 12 gauge shotgun. If you put this right over smokeless powder, that's not recommended. In fact, it's darn right unsafe. What we need is to be able to put this into a plastic sabot that will make up the difference between the 688 and our 729 shotgun barrel. So, of all the wads that we have available, these have viability. What we have here is the Winchester AA12 wad, the Federal 12S4, and the Federal 12S3. But even then, the problem is when we take one of our slugs and we try and put that into one of these wads, the seat in the bottom of the shot cup is such that when you force that wad in there, it flares out the petals, as you see. So in other words, it doesn't fit. So you see it doesn't even go in there square. That's not good. But the Federal 12S4 is the same, and so is the Federal 12S3. It causes a bulging of the petals where the petals meet the compression zone of the wad. And the problem in this is that when we fire these in our shotgun barrel, there'll be a severe stress pinch right here, which will cause the petals to strip off. And if the petals strip off the wad during the travel down the barrel, what happens is accuracy goes out the window. No good. So how do you solve that? Well, the solution is to take one of these 20 gauge spacers and put those in there. And in fact, we need to put 2 of them in, because what you don't want is if you put one of those 20 gauge spacer wads in there, you see it doesn't cause the stress in that very important juncture. There's still a little flare there, and when we measure this in our calipers, we get 0.731, 7.3233. But that will go down our shotgun barrels okay, because our shotgun barrels, again, 729. You see that the pedals are taller than the front driving band, and we could simply cut that off, because you don't want to have that excess pedal there in our slug, because as it goes down the barrel, that might cause a little bit of back drag, and that could cause the pedal to strip off. So the way to get around that is to use two 20 gauge spacers. And when you put that in, then you've got the correct height of the pedal. Plus that'll give extra shielding against the base of the slug. So that looks pretty viable. Now it turns out that the Winchester AA 12 wad, if you go ahead and put 2 of those spacers and then put the slug in, you get, again, ideal height. So that is also in play. However, the problem is that the Winchester AA 12 compression zone is not designed for slugs. It may not have the correct amount of rigidity to be able to stand shooting a slug, whereas you see the Federal has a compression zone that is very compressible, collapsible, and yet maintains. So we like the 12S3. However, we could very well use the Winchester AA 12 wad yet, and that is the base of the shot cup is very robust on the Winchester AA 12 wad, more so than the Federal 12S3. So we like this thickness of the base on that shot cup. So what we could do is we could simply saw off the compression zone, so we'll have a wad like this one that Jeff over at Tofladermaas provided me, give me this idea. And then we could use the excellent Galandi type of compression zone made possible by their brush wad, and go ahead and put the shot cup on top of that in our shotgun load. So that's going to make sense there. We'll give that a try. So here you see the Winchester AA wad, and then we went ahead and used a pair of heavy scissors to cut the base off, and then use a knife to trim that a little smooth, so we have a raw shot cup with the little thicker base section there. Then we take one of the brush wads from BPI and we flatten off. It's actually a double-ended obturator, but we don't need the both ends to obturate, so we flatten off one end with sandpaper, and that allows us to put this together. And there is what it looks like with a slug and two 20-gauge spacers in there. So we got it all. The proper height of petals, the proper fit into the shot cup, the nice thick base of the shot cup, the nice Galandi compression zone, and the obturator. Now, an important word about obturators. With some wads, this obturator is diameter 6, 8, 9 inches. That's because these wads were designed to be used in one-piece compression formed hulls that have a taper so that so as you go farther into the case walls get thicker, and so the diameter of the opening gets narrower, so you want a narrower base wad here, like 6, 8, 9 inches. For our straight wall hulls, like most of the hunting hulls and buckshot and slug hulls, factory hulls, they're all straight wall type of cases. And for those, also the Fiocchis and the Chedites and all your imported or foreign type of hulls, they are all straight wall type. So you see a lot more straight wall type hulls than you do the compression form one piece. The one piece hulls like the Winchester AA, the Remington STS Premier, the Unibodies, those are all one piece hulls. The diameter of these, designed for the straight wall hulls, is like 725 inches. Because again, it's a straight wall. So it's important to have the right obturator for our slug hulls, which are straight wall. So this has 725, that has 725. So these are the final assemblies that we're going to use for our slug reloading for these moose mini ball type of slugs. So again, thanks to Larry for casting these, and thanks to Jeff at Taufledermaß for sending these over to me to try out. Now fortunately we have the BPI slug loading and field application loading manual. They don't have any loading data, of course, for the moose mini ball type 12 gauge slug. So what we have is loads for the pumpkin ball, which is actually a 1 1/4 ounce slug. So there's the exact load right there. You're looking at Herco, 30 grains, with a pumpkin ball slug, which is 550 grains right there. And the pressure is 8,600 psi, and the muzzle velocity 1345. But we're going to load 28 grains, 2 grains under this. So we should be around 1290 or so. So you see we have all our slug combos ready to go, and here are our cases all primed and ready for the powder charge. And we've got the Hornady automatic powder dispenser dispensing 28 grains of Herco. As you see here, we go ahead and dispense the powder into the case. So these are all loaded with 28 grains of Herco. And on the right you see the 12S3 Federal wad. And the problem with that one was when we went ahead with the 2 spacers, we couldn't get a good roll crimp without having the nose of the slug protrude from the top of the shell. That's a problem with all of these long nose slugs. So when you have that, you need more shell to roll down onto that, or shorten the column height. And so we did that by taking one of the spacers out, and that created an acceptable result, but still not the best of what we are used to. With the Winchester AA wads, same problem. 2 spacers, the nose of the shell sticks out. 1 spacer, we can get it to have a decent looking shell, but the 12S4 shortened wad by shortening the petals, notice that we got a lot more shell there to crimp. So let's go ahead and crimp those. Okay, we put a little Vaseline, as you see, inside the roll crimper, and we adjusted the height to give us a good crimp. Let's go ahead and fire it up and see what we get. Okay, I just adjusted the drill press to give us a little bit more depth of crimp. No rattle, plus the nose of the shell is nicely underneath the mouth of the crimp. That's exactly what we want. Let's show you some more of that crimping. Using the Nick Ross hole vise here we go. No rattle. Let's clean those up and show them to you close up. Well, the head and shoulders best ones are the 5 right in the middle, done with the 12S4 wad with the petals shortened. And we're ready to go to the range. So I've loaded up all the slugs that Jeff at Taufledermaß gave me, so we got enough here to do a good test. Bye for now.